What if I told you that the true limit of a nuclear submarine is not in its reactor, nor in its missiles, nor in its radars, but in food? These colossal machines can sail for more than 90 days beneath the ocean without ever seeing the surface, move in absolute silence like ghosts, and launch intercontinental missiles capable of wiping out entire cities. Yet all that power depends on something as fragile as a hot meal served on time. Because feeding more than 130 crew members 3 times a day in a tiny space, without fire and under tons of water, is a challenge as extreme as keeping the nuclear reactor itself running. Today, on TechZNX, we're going to open the most hidden hatch of these underwater fortresses, the kitchen, the place where no missiles are prepared, but rather the real ammunition that keeps the crew alive. Here is where morale, resilience, and the very ability of a submarine to complete its mission without failing are defined. Inside a submarine, nothing is random. From the outside, it looks like a giant steel tube stretching over 100 meters long, but inside it reveals itself as a compressed city divided into 3 levels. On the upper level are the controls and the command bridge. In the middle level are the common areas, dormitories, dining hall, a makeshift gym, and the kitchen. And at the very bottom, hidden away, lie the reactors, the hydraulic systems, and the missiles. Every centimeter has a purpose, and there is no such thing as luxury or unused space. Even the corridors are designed with surgical precision. Every door, every hatch, and every ladder exists for a specific reason: to optimize space, ensure safety, and allow the entire structure to be sealed within seconds in case of an emergency. Within that environment, the kitchen may look like a luxury, but in reality, it is an invisible pillar that sustains the physical and psychological balance of the crew. The corridors are so narrow that barely 2 people can pass each other. The ceilings are low, always giving the feeling of being compressed. There are no windows, no natural light, no sunrise or sunset. Time is measured only by artificial clocks, 8-hour shifts repeating endlessly. 1 to work, 1 to rest, and 1 to sleep. Even beds are shared in a system called hot racking. When one sailor finishes his shift, another occupies the same bunk still warm. Life on board is marked by routine, discipline, and the unbreakable rule that nothing can fail. Absolute isolation forces reliance on rigid routines, and food becomes the invisible clock for everyone. Breakfast signals the beginning of the day, even if outside it is total darkness. Lunch sustains focus during exhausting shifts. And dinner, even if canned or reheated, marks the pause before going back to duty. Without those pauses, the crew would lose track of time, and with it the discipline that keeps the mission alive. In the middle of that closed ecosystem, the kitchen becomes a silent heart. It occupies just a few square meters, but from there comes the energy that keeps everyone operational. Fire, the basic element of any land-based kitchen, is forbidden here. It cannot be used because it consumes oxygen, creates smoke, and the risk of fire under the sea would be catastrophic. Instead, everything runs on electricity: convection ovens, induction stoves, sealed fryers, special pressure cookers, and industrial microwaves. Each piece of equipment is locked into metal mounts, so it cannot move during maneuvers, because even a small spill could turn into a serious problem. The space is so tight that the cooks work shoulder to shoulder, synchronized like a choreographed dance. One chops vegetables, another prepares the pressure cookers, another manages the ovens, all moving in constant rhythm so nothing collides or falls behind. On land, it might go unnoticed, but under the sea, that coordination means 130 sailors will eat on time and safely. The galley team usually consists of between 2 and 4 people, but they bear the responsibility of feeding more than 130 crew members every single day. Their shifts can stretch to 12 hours, often while the submarine tilts in evasive maneuvers or while the hull shakes under pressure. Cooking rice, boiling water, or frying chicken becomes an operation demanding absolute concentration. The cooks must also anticipate emergencies. If the submarine enters a tense area or maneuvers near an enemy, the menu changes. Quick meals, easy to serve, requiring minimal preparation. At those moments, flavor is irrelevant. Efficiency is everything. Food turns into strategic rations designed to deliver immediate energy, even in the middle of crisis. The submarine can generate unlimited energy thanks to its reactor, but it is always limited by food. Each crew member consumes around 6,000 calories per day, twice what someone on land would eat. The physical effort, mental stress, and forced routine demand constant fuel. That means before setting sail, tons of supplies are loaded. Boxes of rice, cans of vegetables, bags of pasta, frozen meats, concentrated juices, powdered milk, dehydrated goods, and hundreds of liters of bottled or treated water. Everything is stored in the most unexpected spaces. Beneath floors, in hidden compartments, in hollow gaps later reused once emptied. Nothing is wasted, and every corner counts. Stowing provisions is almost a military art. Sailors memorize where every box is placed, because searching for a missing ingredient doesn't just delay cooking, it clogs vital corridors that may be needed in an emergency. Pantry efficiency is as critical as torpedo precision. If you cannot find what you need in seconds, the whole system suffers. Loading supplies is an operation that can last hours and involves dozens of sailors. Every box, every can, every bag is logged with date and destination. It's not only about carrying, but also organizing so the first items to expire are the first to be consumed. This level of logistics detail makes the submarine's pantry as complex as any reactor or electronic system. Fresh food runs out quickly. Fruits, bread, and eggs disappear within the first days. After that, everything depends on canned, frozen, and vacuum-sealed goods. Yet cooks still manage to keep variety alive. Stews, chicken curry, lasagna, meatballs, lentil soups, even desserts like brownies or sponge cakes. They even organize themed nights, Mexican, Italian, or American, because variety isn't luxury, it's strategy to keep morale high. Every recipe is calculated with precision. Rations are exact, nutrients regulated, and even desserts are measured. All is planned by military nutritionists to keep the crew in peak condition for weeks. Even snacks like energy bars, chocolate, or dried fruit are inventoried and rationed. Nothing is left to chance. Desserts, though seemingly secondary, are part of psychological planning. A simple cake or instant pudding has an immediate effect on morale. It is a reminder of normal life in an unnatural environment. The Navy knows this, which is why sweets are included in the menu, not just for calories, but for motivation. Ventilation systems run non-stop because on a submarine smells do not dissipate. On land, a stew smells like home, but underwater that same aroma can saturate the recycled air. That's why frying is limited, smoky methods eliminated, and clean cooking prioritized. Cooking without fire is not just safety, it is total adaptation. The galley also becomes a social hub. Between shifts, sailors drop by for coffee, a cookie, or a few words. In a world of steel and strict routines, that corner keeps the human side alive. On special days, Christmas or the commander's birthday, the cooks improvise cakes with powdered ingredients and handmade decorations. Simple gestures that might be overlooked on land, but under the sea they make a world of difference. During those improvised celebrations, emotions surface that rarely appear in a military setting. Singing a birthday song, sharing a cake, or serving a different dinner becomes a reminder that they are still people, not just parts of a machine. In those moments, the kitchen stops being functional and turns into the emotional refuge of the submarine. The dining hall itself, in those times, becomes more than functional space. It becomes a place where bonds are strengthened, where resistance is shared. That human connection is what allows the crew to endure extreme isolation and return to the surface with the mission accomplished. A nuclear submarine may be a colossal war machine, but without its kitchen, it could not sustain its crew. Feeding more than 130 people, keeping morale high, and doing so without fire, without fresh air, and without windows is one of the least visible yet most decisive feats of modern naval engineering. Cooks must also handle the logistics of serving meals in shifts that align with work schedules. Not everyone eats at the same time. Groups rotate in and out, and every plate must be ready, hot, and safe at the exact moment. A delay or a break in that chain doesn't only lower morale, it also reduces operational efficiency. On a submarine, discipline is measured even in meals. Another challenge is storage space. As weeks go by, emptied compartments are reused for other needs. Where once there were boxes of rice, now there might be technical equipment or tools. The crew adapts constantly in an environment where nothing is wasted, and every space is repurposed. It is a constant logistical chess game that forces planning weeks ahead. Hydration is another critical factor. Although the submarine can generate oxygen and purify water with advanced systems, drinks like milk, coffee, or juice are carefully rationed. Coffee, for example, is more than a beverage. It is psychological fuel that keeps sailors alert during night shifts. A hot cup in the common room becomes a ritual of resilience. Cooks are not only cooks, they are improvisers, motivators, and even morale officers. They know that a poorly served meal can crush spirits, while a well-prepared dish on a hard day can recharge the whole crew. Their role goes beyond technical skill. They are part of survival strategy. As days pass, ration repetition seems inevitable. But creativity changes everything. One can of tuna may be served as salad one day, in pasta the next, or as filling for improvised empanadas. That ability to reinvent keeps monotony away and maintains the sense that even under the sea, there is still variety at the table. The psychological weight of isolation shows in food, too. On land, anyone can buy something different or order a new dish. Here, no. Here, everything is counted and rationed. So, when a special dinner or an unexpected dessert appears, the emotional impact is huge. It's a reminder that despite being trapped in a steel tube under kilometers of water, there is still a space for humanity. Food plays such a crucial role, it even influences tactical decisions. A submarine may extend its mission depending on how many provisions remain. It doesn't matter how silent it is or how many missiles it carries. If the pantry empties, it must return. In other words, provisions are as real an operational limit as fuel for a fighter jet. Many foods are specially designed for long storage. Dehydrated soups, powdered mash, compact desserts. They resemble space food. But here, they must feed dozens of men and women every day without falling into apathy or food fatigue. Noise also conditions the kitchen. A submarine must remain silent to avoid detection, meaning even galley equipment is engineered to work with minimum sound. A blender motor too loud or a vibrating extractor would never be allowed. They could compromise the vessel's stealth. Silent warfare extends even to pots and ovens. Physical limits mean everything must be shared. The dining hall is small with rotating shifts. No private tables, no luxuries. Meals are quick and functional, but they are also one of the rare moments when the crew can relax and talk outside of duty pressure. That is where much of the camaraderie that sustains sailors for weeks is built. In the end, what happens in that tiny kitchen is not secondary. It is essential. It may not look heroic, but keeping morale high and the crew fed beneath tons of water is what makes it possible for a nuclear submarine to complete its mission. It is the hidden gear that sustains the steel colossus, the human detail that gives meaning to the machine. Now that you know the reality of how survival on a nuclear submarine depends on its kitchen, tell me, would you be able to spend 3 months beneath the ocean breathing recycled air and eating always in such a confined space? Or would you rather stay on solid ground 1,000 times over, instead of living under tons of water inside a steel tube? This was TechZNX, showing you what no one else dares to reveal. Subscribe, leave a like, and share this video so we can keep exploring together the most extreme face of technology and warfare.